What's up, guys? It's your boy TPP. I'm back with that true crime talk, baby. Let's go. All right, before we jump into it, though, before we jump into this little Idaho4, conversation, discussion, can you do me a favor? You smash that like and that subscribe for your boy. I appreciate it greatly. Help your boy out. Come on, man. Help me out. All right, let's jump into it. All right, topic for this video. Idaho4, right? I'm going to go a little bit more in depth on one of the speculations and why I don't necessarily agree with it. Okay, so one of the speculations that people have, or theories, is that Kohberger had help. Now, a lot of people think that it was this Brent Kopaka connection. And I can understand it. I completely understand it. The heinousness and the execution of these murders. I could totally understand why people would think that. You know what I mean? And especially if you've been following this case from the beginning with all the craziness that's been going on with it. There's been so many speculations and rumors and conspiracy theories. It's been insane. So that being said, I do understand it. But at the same time, I myself personally don't believe it. I don't believe he had help. And I'm gonna break it down a little bit, okay? So one, I don't think Kopaka was involved. I know there's been some, some pretty interesting, videos dropped on the connections between Kopaka and Kohberger. And hey, the video I saw by Drip Drop Crime Circus, he does a really good job of trying to show the possibility of it, being that they could be, but there's nothing that actually ties them to each other. There really isn't. Granted, I could eat my words during the trial. It could come out that maybe they did, but I just don't feel like at this point in the game that we wouldn't know about it. You know what I mean? I just feel like we would know. You know what I mean? And I know there's no such thing as coincidence and and true crime, but I think that this is a coincidental thing. I just don't see. There's theories and speculations, conspiracy theories, all that stuff that I feel like are more plausible than Kopaka and Kohberger being buddies and doing this together. Once again, I mean, I could be wrong, but I just don't think it's the case. I like I said before, I believe this isn't Kohberger's first rodeo. Now, whether he is connected to the murder back in his home state or murders in that general area, right? I don't think that is his first rodeo. I just don't. I don't buy it. And that's the thing, is that if this wasn't his first one, it would make sense on how he pulled it off. This just heinous crime, how he pulled it off. I mean, it's like you would have had to have some experience, you know what I mean, in doing so. Now, and I'm still having a hard time buying into it being a setup. I was talking to my buddy. He's pretty convinced himself that it was a setup, and his speculations and some of the research he's been doing, if he's right, I don't know how that could ever be proven, because if he's right on his theories that this was a setup, it goes so much deeper. It goes to the depths of like elite groups of individuals. You know what I mean? So I don't know, man. I don't know if I could buy into that yet. I've seen a lot of interesting stuff. There's a lot of interesting things that have happened prior to the murders, post murders, that would lend itself to possibility of something deeper. But I just haven't got to see enough like proof. And then if it is a setup, I'm telling you, it would have to be at the highest levels. We're talking about professional level, like hit, we're talking like the type of hit, like level that you would expect dealing with like an assassination of like with a head of state type level. So for me, it's really hard for me to believe that at this point, even though I've seen some pretty interesting things. But like I said, I could be wrong, right? But as far as I'm concerned, I don't think anybody else was involved. It's like if anybody else was involved, I truly believe Ellie would know about it, FBI would know about it, and that individuals that were involved, they would be behind bars right now. I don't feel like there's any way around that. I feel like they would be in bars, 100%. And that being said, yeah, I don't believe that he had help. I feel like this man has done it before. I feel like with his knowledge, his criminology knowledge, um, I feel like he would know how to get away with this. And I also feel that if you're going to execute this type of murder, being the type of person he is, he would have done an extremely good job of doing it. Which, if you think about it, besides the blood on the snap of that sheath, he did do a good job. A lot of people are like, there's no blood in the car, there's this, there's that. Well, we don't know for sure. We don't know for sure, right? Trial isn't here. We haven't heard it all, so we don't know for sure. And if I'm correct, and he did plan this proficiently, right, it would explain why there's not a lot of blood to be found anywhere. Because if he planned it proficiently, he would have wore a jumpsuit. He would have never gotten that car with the jumpsuit on. It would have came off outside the car. It would have came off probably into a bag. One of my subscribers has actually broke it down too and added a little bit of sauce to that idea. And he said, look, man, I surf, and what we do when we go places and we want to keep, the ride clean, and we don't want to transfer salt water and all that stuff. He's like, what we do is we take a tote and you strip off into the tote, or your gear off into the tote, seal the tote up, put the tote in the vehicle, change into something fresh you have waiting for you in the back of the car. Boom, boom, boom. Not a whole lot of transfer. So let's say that's what he did, right? Let's say he had fresh clothes or even a small layer of clothing underneath the jumpsuit. Comes out that piece, gets to the car, pops the trunk, either pulls a bag or a tote out, steps into it, takes that jumpsuit off, pulls it straight into the bag, steps out of it into something fresh, or, you know what I mean? Nothing at all, even possibly, because if that jumpsuit is weatherproof, right, you're not going to get any blood seepage through. Okay, so now you're out of the blood. What about his hands, right? Gloves, right? So let's say he comes out gloved up, jumpsuit up, mask on, peels everything off, goes into that tote or bag, all right? Has fresh stuff sitting in the back of the car, in the trunk, waiting. And he could even have had that trunk popped. You know what I'm saying? It could already been pre-popped, waiting, just waiting for him to come back. You know what I mean? Steps out fresh, gets in the car fresh. Only thing that has the blood is the bag or the tote with the bloody items in it from what he used to go in and commit the crime. So that, to me, right there is going to eliminate a lot of blood transfer into that vehicle. You know what I mean? So then we know he took this extremely large, long route all the way back to his place, right? So much time, so many areas to dispose of that clothing, the bag, anything. You have rivers, streams, state parks, burn pits. There were so many scenarios that he could have gotten rid of that stuff, right? So that would explain why we don't see a whole lot of blood, right? And then it's like, people are like, what about a blood trail coming out the house? Well, I mean, just because you got blood on you don't mean it's dripping off you, especially if you ain't the one that is leaking the blood, And so I don't really have a problem with, there's not much of a blood trail. Well, okay. I mean, there's a lot of things that explain that. And then, so that kind of explains to me, and this jumpsuit situation too would completely explain why the sheath got left, right? Because let's think, say he's got a jumpsuit on, no belt, because that's going to impede his progress of changing out. Like, why would you wear a belt just to have the knife on it when you have big pockets in most of these jumpsuits that can easily fit the knife in the sheath? So he goes in, sheath the knife in the pocket, pulls the knife out of the sheath, commits what he's doing in the first room. Start. The sheath pops out of the pocket. He loses track of it. He doesn't even realize it's gone, because in his mind, he's focused on the job, right? Tunnel vision, adrenaline, visual snow, who knows, right? Some people speculate maybe he was on a drug. Possibly. We don't know. He is an ex-addict, or, an addict that's hiding it well, if he's still doing it. But that being said, there's a lot of explanations on why there's not a lot of evidence as far as in the house. If the dude had a mask on, had a jumpsuit on, no telling if he had a hairnet on to keep hair from dropping. There's all kinds of things that could have happened. You know what I mean? So a lot of this stuff's explainable, really. It really is explainable. And a lot of people think that he had help because of the lack of evidence and the fact that 4 people were killed. And to me, that I feel like it would be harder to cover it up and get out of there with less, evidence left behind or brought with. If there was one person, it would be so much harder to do if there's 2 people. So much harder to do. One person going in, controlled, plotted, thought out, and executed almost perfectly. Except for, like I said, the knife sheath. And no belt securing that knife sheath would completely make it, that makes sense to me. And it just makes me feel like a jumpsuit was used even more so, especially when you hear of all black, right? So an all black jumpsuit, one piece, weatherproof, knife in the pocket, sheath in the pocket. And it makes sense. Come out the house, have everything set up to where you can get all that stuff off of you quick into a bag, into a tote, and get out. Makes sense to me. That being said, that would reduce the amount of blood or anything that would go into that car. Have time to get rid of it, which we see that kind of makes sense with the digital footprint. And then he's got plenty of time to scrub that car down. We're talking weeks where he was still in Pullman, right? And then days when he was at his parents' house, which we saw for a fact he was cleaning at his parents' house. So multiple cleaning efforts to disinfect it and just sterilize that car, just in case, you know what I mean? Just by some chance that his jumpsuit and, get down, might have give off some traces of something. So to me, it's it really isn't too hard for me to conceptualize this and to think that he did it by himself. Because to me, it doesn't seem like it would be as plausible to get away so clean if there were 2 people involved. And then it's one person driving. I don't see why you would involve yourself in this type of situation unless you were going to be in on the main part of the situation and not just be a driver. To me, the driver thing just don't make sense. And let's think about this too, guys. So I know most of my videos are, cases that are developing, and trials, right? But you got to understand, like I've watched a stupid ridiculous amount of documentaries on serial killers and murders and this and that. And Brian Kohberger, he is not the first guy to go commit this type of homicide with multiple victims. You know what I mean? He did it at a crazy speed. He did it in. But let's think about it, man. With enough planning, the fact this man was out running and conditioning himself, he went in there healthy. We're talking about a dude that's a vegan. And granted, I'm not into veganism. You know what I mean? I'm a meat guy. Got to keep the meat up. But come on, dude. I know plenty of vegan athletes that have insane endurance. So this man took care of himself physically, with his diet and his exercise regimen. So for me, it's like he went in there. He's not a small dude either. We're not talking about a small guy. This dude he's physically imposing. But look at the pictures next to like the police while he's in cuffs, like officers while he's in cuffs. Like he's not a small dude. And then he's taking martial arts. So you're talking about somebody that's physically proficient. So for me, like I said, guys, it's not a stretch for me to think that he did this by himself. It just makes more sense to me, if anything, that he did it by himself because of how clean it was done. I just don't feel like if there's multiple people involved, it would be done this clean. And then, like I was getting into the point of serial killers, man, he ain't the first one to go in and take multiple victims. You know what I mean? And I mean, BTK, there's a bunch of them that have gone in and taken multiple victims in one go. So I feel like he falls in the category of this new evolved serial killer, a hybrid of sorts, where he has all the right, wrong mental makeup to get pleasure from this type of situation, right? And look at his past. It all makes sense. Everything. His psychology, all of it just makes sense. And then we add to the top of that all of his knowledge on criminology in this day and age with technology. That's what he was savvy in. So to me, this guy by himself, going and pulling this off by himself, and us being left with how little we've been left with, it's not a stretch for me to believe that at all. So I know there's a lot of people that watch me that may not agree with me, a lot of people that are dead set. And I know this because I asked for you guys' comments, and I asked for that so I can see where everybody's at, and so that we can kind of bring up topics to talk on. You know what I mean? And there's a couple people that have made comments that, believe that he didn't do it by himself. And like I said, I could see why you would think that, especially with all the crazy speculations and stuff that have gone on. But you got to remember, like, you can't forget, you can't get so caught up in this that you forget about all the other crimes that have been committed throughout history by people that were less intelligent than this guy, less physically capable than this guy. You know what I mean? So if guys back in the day could have pulled this off, there's no reason that Kohberger couldn't have pulled it off by himself when there's been other ones, especially if he studied the other ones, which we know he has. There's no way you get into this level of criminology, these type of degrees, without studying the old guys, the BTKs, the Green River Killers, you know what I mean, Gacy, all that stuff. You're going to study. There's no way around it. If we study it just by being, true crime nuts, if we know about it, then, bro, he's definitely going to know about it. To think he doesn't know about this stuff it's bananas to me. So that's how I feel, man. I feel like this dude definitely did it by himself. I feel like we're going to find out that he did other ones, or at least one other one. And it's like, come on, dude. His family knew. Dude. His dad didn't just fly out there for no reason. You know what I mean? He had to have an assumption. And his sisters basically come out and said that she went and searched his vehicle when he got home. So it's like, they know. When the family knows, When the family is giving signs and statements basically saying that they kind of had a feeling that it was him, come on, man. Come on. How are we gonna really believe that there was other people involved? I feel like this guy, hybrid, new age serial killer, and he knew what he was doing, and he executed it proficiently, absolutely proficiently. And a lot of people are like, well, he wasn't so smart, the knife sheath. Well, dude, like I said, that's easily explained. Easily explained. And I bet your ass that DNA that they got out of that snap, right, on the knife sheath, I bet you that was like just a small, insignificant amount of DNA. Just enough to get his profile off of. And it's single source too. So what that makes me feel like is that knife sheath was probably wiped down, gloved up and wiped down to eliminate DNA, but somehow just enough survived in that snap. You know what I mean? Just enough survived in that snap. So, I that's my feeling on it, guys. Absolutely, dude. Did it by himself. Masterminded this all by himself. Definitely studied, planned, plotted. I mean, dude, we have a digital footprint showing him in that area multiple times. And we even have talk about him being so close that his telephone got picked up on devices through the Bluetooth and the Wi-Fi to the house. You know what I mean? So, that being said, that's where I'm at with it, guys. That's where I'm at. I don't think he did this with anybody else. This is all him. Solo, Kohberger, trying to break the records, trying to be known for something in his mediocre life. Dude's horrible. Absolutely horrible. But I know we won't know for a fact until the trial starts, which I can't wait for. But I just want to touch on that. I definitely think he did it alone. There's just no way that it was somebody else. With that being said, guys, those are my thoughts and my opinions on an accomplice. I just don't think there is one. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments. I know it's kind of a long video, a little bit of rambling, but it's pretty coherent rambling. Yeah, so hit me up in the comments. Let me know what you think. And until next video, it's your boy, the Piscine Predator, a.k.a. TPP, baby. And I'm out, y'all. Much love. Peace.